Howdy everyone, how y'all doing today? This is Norman McFadden. I come to you every Monday and I bring you a new story. Yes, I got 4 books out. I got Legends of Leaper Hollow 1 and 2, and then Urban Legends of Lincoln County, Missouri 1 and 2. And today's story is coming out of Urban Legends of Lincoln County number 1. And sometimes I ad-lib and I'll just tell a story, and sometimes I read a little. Today I'm going to do a little bit of both. We're going to talk about a little cemetery called Oak Ridge Cemetery. And it's out by Ellsbury, Missouri. I'm going to read the first chapter here. It says, just 2 miles from Ellsbury, Missouri, on a big hill overlooking beautiful rolling valleys, sits Oak Ridge Cemetery. Horror tales had came from this little cemetery. According to our only in your state.com, onlyyourstate.com, if you want to go to it, it is the 8th most haunted cemetery in the state of Missouri. And you know, this claim, when I was a reporter, was enough to get me to go out at Ellsbury. So I didn't know exactly what to do, but what I just thought I'd talk to the people. So I got me a little, stood right in front of the Dollar General there in Ellsbury, and I started asking people, what's the legend about Oak Ridge Cemetery? And some people gave me dirty looks, some people just walked on, but this one lady walked up to me, stared at me. She had the whitest hair you ever saw in your life. Like snow-driven hair. Oh, it was so beautiful. She walked up to me, looked at me, wadded tobacco in her mouth. She said, my name is Ruby. I heard you was asking about Oak Ridge Cemetery. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I'll tell you the story about Oak Ridge Cemetery. And with that, she gave a big old spit of tobacco on the ground. She said, yeah. She said, I know the whole detail. She said, it's kind of bad. The legend started with somebody else's ending. She said, there was a little old lady lived here in Ellsbury. Her name was Alice, and it was 1930, and Alice died, and she was 98 years old, good old age, but they said she looked like she was 150 to 200 years old. She looked really old. Now the tale is that Alice went to a bank auction. She went there and she bought all the jewelry they had. It was a lot of jewelry that they took from some lady that didn't make payments. But happened to be that lady that they took the jewelry from was a witch. And she cast a spell on that jewelry. Anybody that buys her jewelry and keeps it will be cursed by this awful spell she put on it. Now the spell was that you'd grow old, you'd live a long life, but you'd watch all your family, your friends die away. Now that wasn't the bad part of the curse. The bad part of the curse was every time somebody you loved died, you would feel the physical pain of their death. So Alice, when she died in 1930, she requested that all the jewelry be buried with her. And there was about $1 million worth of jewelry. Because she didn't want nobody else to be cursed with the curse she was cursed with. And they buried her up at Oak Ridge Cemetery with all her jewelry on her. Now let's get back to the cemetery. They was a little old lady that took care of all the cemetery. She lived in a little shack right on the side of the cemetery. When I went up there, it was still there, but I heard they tore it down now. But she lived in this little shack. And she heard about Alice and all her jewelry is going to be buried at the cemetery. She said, there'll be grave robbers. They will be grave robbers come try to take that jewelry. She said, not on my watch. Now, Mary Lou was her name. And Mary Lou was what you call a mumbler. Now, if you don't know what a mumbler is someone that mumbles to herself all the time. They said she'd even tell herself a joke and laugh at it. And she'd talk to herself all the time. And even answer herself. But she didn't like talking to other people. But she was a hard worker and she kept the cemetery clean. Now that night they buried Alice. She said she was going to stand guard. That she was going to make every hour on the hour make trip through the cemetery, make sure there ain't no bodies stealing them jewelry. She said that ain't going to happen on her watch. So she made a big pot of coffee and she'd made about 3 or 4 rounds. Took her little lantern and walked through the graveyard at night and come back. Nothing was going on. So it came to the 12 o'clock walk. So she lit her lantern and she went out. She walked through the graveyard, went by Alice's grave, and on her way back, she came by everybody's, round of the cemetery. And as she was coming in the back door of her little shack, 2 men grabbed her and pulled her inside. And they did awful things to little Mary Lou. Awful things, horrible things. And then they nailed her up on top of the roof of her little shack, overlooking the graveyard. Now, why they did it, I don't really know. I think maybe so she could watch them as they dug up Alice's grave and stole all that precious jewelry that had a curse. Now the police came the next day. They seen the grave been dug up. They found poor Mary Lou on top of the roof, and they went inside the little shack, and they said it was like a horror scene. There was a hammer laying on the floor of the little shack with blood all over it, and they would blood splatter all over the walls of the little shack where they beat her with that hammer. Then they drug her out and nailed her to standing up on the roof of that little shack overlooking the graveyard. Now, if it was the 8th most haunted cemetery in Missouri, it is rightly earned Because they said sometimes at night you go up there around midnight and you'll see Mary Lou walking with her lantern around the graveyard. If you go up there, I've been there, I stayed the night there. You can feel the spirits, and the spirit is unrest. They say Mary Lou's spirit will not rest until the grave robbers that robbed Alice's grave is brought to justice and the jewelry is returned back to the grave. That she'll wander and do guard over that graveyard until that happens. So if you run on some cheap jewelry that's really real jewelry, be careful. Be very careful. They could be a curse on it. I don't think they ain't witches. Now, I'm a reporter and I report really weird stuff. And they are witches still out there. A lot of them. They're white witches and they're dark witches. And the dark witch put a spell on that jewelry. Watch it. May God bless you. Until next Monday, now you know the urban legend of Oak Ridge Cemetery. God bless y'all.